The road was melting. Not figuratively. Literally. Marcus Reed could see the asphalt shimmering in waves 50 yards ahead, soft, warped, like the highway itself was giving up. 116 degrees Fahrenheit. Highway 95. Outside Phoenix, Arizona. His $112,000 Mercedes sat dead on the shoulder. And in 51 minutes, not one single person had stopped. He had a $15 million deal waiting in a boardroom. 340 employees whose paychecks depended on him closing it. His phone was at 8%. His water was gone. A wave of dizziness had hit him 10 minutes ago and scared him more than he wanted to admit. Marcus Reed, CEO, self-made, never needed anyone, slid down against the hot car door and stared at the empty highway. He had given up. Then he heard it. A low rumble. Getting slower. A beat-up blue F-150 pulling over. Marcus didn't have bad days. That wasn't arrogance, it was infrastructure. 4:45 a.m. wake up. Black coffee. 30 minutes of planning before the world woke up. Every variable accounted for. He ran ClearPath Technologies, 340 employees, 3 Phoenix locations, $200 million in annual revenue. Started it in a spare bedroom with $8,000 and 2 clients. Now he had investors flying in from New York for a meeting that could add $15 million to their expansion fund. He had left home at 9:15 a.m. Early as always. The weather app said 104 degrees Fahrenheit already. A historic heat dome sitting over the southwest, the kind meteorologists called dangerous and unprecedented. Marcus had noted it and moved on. He had AC in the car. He never thought about what happens when the car dies. 20 minutes in, on the long open stretch of Highway 95 towards Scottsdale, the Mercedes made a sound. Small. A single click. Then the dashboard lit up. Then silence, the particular awful silence of an engine that has simply stopped. He pressed the gas. Nothing. Turned the key. Nothing. Hit start 4 times, each press harder than the last, the way people do when they already know it won't work, but can't stop trying. His $112,000 car had died on a desert highway on the most important morning of his year. He stepped outside. The heat was physical, a wall, something with weight. The air didn't feel like air. The asphalt under his shoes was soft. The sun reflected off the white median and hit him from 2 directions at once. Mercedes roadside assistance, 55 minutes. AAA, 45 minutes. Tow only. 2 local shops. Backed up, number in a queue. He called his assistant Dana. Pushed the board meeting 1 hour. Car situation. Then he stood on the shoulder and watched cars go by. Dozens. He made eye contact with drivers. Stood near the white line. Waved. With the uncomfortable desperation of a man who had never had to wave for help in his life. Every car kept going. By minute 30, sweat had soaked through his dress shirt. He had half a bottle of warm water. He was rationing. He called Dana again. Push it another hour. Her voice was careful. Asterisk, the investors are already here, Mr. Reed. Asterisk, tell them I'm coming. At minute 40, a wave of dizziness passed through him. Brief, but real. He leaned against the car, yanked his arm back, the metal scorching through his sleeve. At minute 47, phone hit 8%. He sat down against a tire, the only shade available, barely any at all, and looked at the empty road. He was worth $47 million, and he could not solve this. I don't know what to do. He thought it clearly for the first time in years. Then he heard the rumble. The F-150 was blue once. Now it was the color of blue that's been in Arizona's sun for a decade, faded, honest, earned. It pulled over well ahead of Marcus. The driver had seen him from a distance and made his decision before he was close enough to read the situation. He hadn't slowed down, assessed, kept going. He had decided to stop before he knew anything. The door opened. Around 38. Medium height. Gray t-shirt soaked through, dark work pants, steel-toed boots. His hands were the first thing Marcus noticed, calloused, strong, the kind built from years of physical work. He walked with the unhurried ease of someone who isn't performing anything. Car trouble. Yeah. Just died. Been here almost an hour. The man looked at the Mercedes with calm, reading eyes. Not impressed. Not unimpressed. Just looking. What year? 2024, S-Class. He nodded. Popped the hood. Marcus pulled the lever. The man lifted the hood and went still, the stillness of someone letting information come to them instead of rushing toward it. Water's in the cooler in the truck bed, he said, without looking up. Grab a Gatorade too. You look like you need it. Marcus walked to the truck. Packed cooler, ice, water bottles, orange Gatorade. He drank half the Gatorade in one pull and felt his body physically exhale. What's your name? Marcus asked when he came back. The man glanced up. Danny. Then went back to the engine. Danny Kowalski had been an HVAC technician for 14 years. Commercial buildings across Greater Phoenix. Attics in July where temperatures hit 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Rooftops where equipment burned through work gloves. Mechanical rooms that smelled like metal and effort. He was good at it. The kind of good that doesn't announce itself. 4 years ago, his wife, Claire, died. Ovarian cancer, January diagnosis, September funeral. She was 34. She left behind Danny and their daughter Lily, who was 6 and had her mother's eyes and her father's stubbornness and didn't fully understand yet what it meant that mom wasn't coming back. Danny kept his promise to Lily the only way he knew, by showing up. Every day, without exception, no matter how heavy the night before had been. 5:30 a.m. to make her lunch. Full days in the heat. Pickup at 5:45. Dinner, homework, bedtime. Then the kitchen table at 9 p.m., making the numbers work on one income. Everything went to Lily. That morning, he was heading to a Scottsdale office building, AC down overnight, 50 people arriving to no air conditioning on the hottest day of the year. His dispatcher had texted twice. He spotted Marcus from a quarter-mile back. He almost kept going. Then he thought about what he was teaching Lily, not with words, but with choices she might not be watching but would somehow absorb anyway. He thought about the man he was quietly becoming, decision by decision, in the moments no one saw. He pulled over. The problem: a failed crankshaft position sensor combined with a corroded battery connection building for weeks. Not obvious. Not something a standard roadside truck fixes on site. They tow it and leave. Danny had what he needed. Not the exact part, but close enough to get the car running safely to a dealer. He worked with the focused economy of someone who doesn't waste motion. Each step deliberate. Each tool used once and returned. Sweat dripped from his face onto the engine block. His shirt was soaked through within 10 minutes. The back of his neck burned red. He didn't mention any of it. Marcus watched. He had offered to help twice. Danny gave him small tasks, which Marcus completed without needing instructions repeated. Danny noticed without commenting. Marcus studied him the way he studied people he was considering for his leadership team. 18 years of hiring had taught him that resumes told you almost nothing. How someone moved, worked, made decisions under pressure, that told you everything. Danny never complained about the heat. Never glanced at his phone. Never performed the difficulty of what he was doing. Just worked, steady, quiet, completely present, like a man who had made peace with hard conditions a long time ago. Marcus handed him a cold water bottle at one point. Danny took it, drank half, poured the rest over the back of his neck, handed it back. "Thank you," he said simply. Went back to work. Marcus held the empty bottle and felt something shift in him that he couldn't name yet. About 15 minutes left. Danny spoke without looking up. "You've got a board meeting today." "Had," Marcus said. "Pushed it twice. Don't know if it's still alive." Danny tightened a connection. Checked it. Tightened again. "How many people work for you?" "About 340. A pause. 340 families, Danny said. Not a compliment. Not a lesson. Just a reframe. Quiet. Delivered like a weather observation. It landed harder than anything Marcus's CFO had said to him all quarter. "Yeah," Marcus said slowly. "I guess that's one way to think about it." Danny glanced up briefly. Not wisdom performing itself. Just the look of someone who understood personally what it meant to have people depending on you, and to show up for them anyway. "You'll make the meeting," Danny said. "You don't know that. I know the car." Almost a smile. Car's going to be fine. Danny closed the hood, wiped his hands, looked at Marcus. Started up. Marcus turned the key. The Mercedes started smooth and clean, like nothing had ever happened. He sat there a moment, got out. What do I owe you? Wallet already open. Danny was packing his toolbox. Didn't look up. Nothing. 40 minutes in 116 degrees Fahrenheit heat. You saved my meeting. Let me. I didn't stop for money. No edge. No pride. Just a fact. Marcus lowered the bills. He looked at this man, soaked gray shirt, calloused hands, faded truck with a dented door, and asked the only honest question left. Why did you stop? Danny picked up his toolbox and walked toward the truck. Because nobody else did, he said. He got in, pulled back onto the highway. Marcus stood there holding his wallet. He stood there longer than he needed to. He made the meeting. Walked in 40 minutes late, jacket over his arm, sweat still at his collar. Apologized once, directly, no over-explaining. Moved straight into business. Deal closed. $15 million. Done by 2 p.m. He should have felt it, that satisfaction of a big close. He'd felt it 100 times before. It didn't come. Danny's words ran underneath everything all afternoon like a current he couldn't switch off. At 11 p.m., building empty, Marcus sat at his desk with cold coffee and one question he hadn't been able to shake all day. Who was that man? He searched. Danny Kowalski. Phoenix. Desert Air Solutions, the logo he'd seen on the truck door. Found him in 20 minutes. When the shape of Danny's life came into focus, Claire, the timeline Lily, the years of quiet daily effort with no audience and no applause, Marcus felt something move through him he hadn't felt in a long time. Not pity. Something harder to sit with than pity. Recognition. Of a kind of strength he hadn't fully accounted for. The kind without a LinkedIn profile or a keynote slot. The kind that just shows up every day in the heat because it's right. He didn't call that night. He waited, wanted to be sure he was doing this correctly. Not reacting. Not performing generosity. Actually thinking. Slept on it. Woke at 4:45. Made the coffee. Sat with the same feeling. It had gotten clearer. ClearPath had a director of facilities management role open for 3 weeks. 3 Phoenix locations, vendor relationships, a team of 6. Marcus had reviewed 11 resumes. None had what he was looking for, which he'd been struggling to articulate to HR. He could articulate it now. He called Desert Air Solutions the next morning. This is Marcus Reed. You fixed my car on Highway 95 2 days ago. I'd like to buy you lunch. A pause. You don't need to do that. I know. There's something professional I'd like to discuss. Lunch. You can say no to everything after. Quiet restaurant in Scottsdale. Danny showed up in a pressed blue button-down and dark jeans. He had made an effort. Marcus noticed. Marcus laid out the roll over lunch. Watched Danny's face, not performing a reaction. Just listening and thinking, same as he'd worked on that engine. I'm not qualified for this, Danny said. Tell me what qualifies someone to lead a team managing 3 facilities, vendor relationships, and emergency operations. Danny was quiet, then started talking, coordinating emergency repairs across multiple sites, managing subcontractors under deadline, the time a hospital compressor failed at 2 a.m., and he solved it in 45 minutes with parts from 2 suppliers and 3 phone calls. Marcus didn't interrupt once. That's the job, he said when Danny finished. You can't just hand me a director role. Your team would. I'm not handing you anything. 3 rounds, HR screen, operations panel, then me. If you don't earn it, you don't get it. I'll make sure of that. Danny looked at the job description again. Why are you doing this? Marcus answered honestly. How someone behaves when there's nothing in it for them tells me more than anything else I've found in 18 years of hiring. You spent 40 minutes in 116 degrees Fahrenheit helping a stranger and wanted nothing back. A pause. I've never found that in a resume. Danny was quiet for a moment. I'd need time to think. Take it, Marcus said. Speech balloon Danny almost said no. Sometimes the biggest opportunities come disguised as something that doesn't feel like us. Has that ever happened to you? Tell us below, we want to hear it. Red heart ***. His sister in Tucson said he was being an idiot for hesitating. His foreman said the same thing, less kindly. He ran the numbers 7 different ways at the kitchen table after Lily was asleep. He thought about Claire. Not the grief, he'd learned to carry that differently now, more like weight evenly distributed than open-wound. He thought about what she knew about him that he sometimes forgot. She had always said he was more than he let himself be. He called Marcus on a Thursday morning. "I'll interview," he said. 3 rounds over 2 weeks. HR screen, straightforward. Operations panel, 4 people, 2 hours, detailed questions on vendor management and emergency response. He answered from experience, not research. The panel noticed. Final round with Marcus. 90 minutes. Offer came the next morning. Danny accepted by end of day. He started on a Monday in September when Phoenix had finally begun to cool. There were 6 people on his team. He learned their names, strengths, and frustrations in the first 2 weeks, not from files but from being present and listening the same way he'd always listened. He was good at the job immediately. Not because Marcus had believed in him, though that had mattered. Because he had always been capable of more than his circumstances had made room for. Now there was room. 6 months in, ClearPath's facilities operation ran better than it had in 3 years. Not because Danny revolutionized anything. Because he showed up every day, paid attention, and did the work without needing credit for it. His team would have walked through a wall for him. You can't manufacture that. Lily noticed the change in him before she noticed anything else. Not the salary. Not the office. Something in his shoulders that had been tight for 4 years had slowly, quietly come loose. On her birthday in November, he took her to the bike shop. The purple one was still there. The one she'd pointed at 3 times over the past year, each time reading the price tag and then looking back at him and saying **, "It's okay, Daddy. Maybe next year." **. She saw it the moment they walked in. Looked at it, then at him, with the careful hope of a child who has learned not to want things too loudly. "This one, Dad." "That one," he said. She didn't whoop. Didn't jump. She just stepped forward and wrapped both arms around his waist and pressed her face into his jacket and stayed there, completely still, the way kids are when something is exactly right and they don't have words for it yet. Danny stood in the middle of that bike shop with his daughter's arms around him and his eyes at the ceiling and thought about a Tuesday morning in June on an empty highway in 116 degrees Fahrenheit heat. He had almost kept driving. He thought about that a lot now. Danny didn't stop because he had extra time. He didn't stop because it was convenient. He stopped because nobody else did, and because somewhere in him, through everything life had taken from him, that still meant something. One choice. One exit. 40 minutes in the heat. 2 lives, quietly and permanently, changed. The world doesn't always see the Dannys. They don't post about it. They don't keep score. They just keep showing up for their kids, for strangers on roadsides, for the version of themselves they decided to be a long time ago. You know a Danny? Someone who shows up quietly, without applause, and makes everything better just by being who they are. Tag them right now. They deserve to read this, and to know that someone noticed.